technology that is built for your every sense. Acer Pure from Acer.
So viewers, the Alaska summit between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin was sold to the world as a global diplomatic masterpiece. But what did the world actually get? Donald Trump holding court with Putin and then leaving his top secret notes lying around Hotel Sprinter. Putin, meanwhile, got both the photo ops and also a big wide grin. Zelensky was left sidelined and Europe is both dissatisfied and also worried about this meeting. But the biggest scoop from the summit is the Trump administration's sloppy diplomacy. Why? Because global media outlets are reporting stories about the government documents marked with State Department seals being left behind in hotel printers just hours before the world leaders sat down for talks. 8 pages that were meant for the eyes of the officials were discovered in a public printer at a hotel where the guests were staying. They contained detailed schedules, phone numbers of the US officials, a seating chart for the planned lunch, and even a phonetic guidance on how to pronounce Putin. Yes, the US President Donald Trump was given language lessons on how to pronounce Putin's name. We were not surprised because back in 2020, when Donald Trump had visited India, many Indian names also proved quite tricky for him. The internet, in fact, is still trolling Trump for getting the cricket legend Sachin Tendulkar and visionary leader Swami Vivekananda's name horribly wrong.
While our nations have many differences, they are both defined and propelled by a fundamental truth, the truth that all of us are blessed with divine light and every person is endowed with a sacred soul. As the great religious teacher Swami Vivekananda once said, this is the country where your people cheer on some of the world's greatest cricket players, from Sachin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli. The life of Prime Minister Modi underscores the limitless promise of this great nation. He started out by his father's side as a chiwala, a tea seller.
Meanwhile, today the European and NATO leaders will join Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelenskyy for his crucial meeting with President Donald Trump. Now, this move is being seen as an apparent effort to prevent a repeat of the heated encounter that Zelenskyy had faced when he faced Trump in the Oval Office in February. The presence of the EU leaders signals Europe's support for Ukraine. Many believe that this could potentially help ease concerns in Kyiv and Europe that after Trump's meeting with Putin, Zelenskyy could be railroaded into a one-sided peace deal with Russia that Trump insists he wants to broker. These statements after statements that are coming in from both sides ahead of this crucial meeting are indicating the same. In fact, according to the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, he says that there are things that Russia wants that it cannot get, and there are things that Ukraine wants that it cannot get. Both sides are going to have to give up something in order to be on the table to ensure that this peace deal happens. The way it is, he says, we have to accept the reality. That's a statement that has come in from the United States. But what could happen in this meeting? My colleague Shinjoy Chaudhary joins us on the broadcast. Shinjoy, good morning. In February, we had seen perhaps something that the world had never seen before. A world leader like Zelenskyy in the White House getting a dressing down from the president as well as the vice president. Now, months after that, another meeting is going to take place in the White House. What can be expected? Because this time the European Union leaders are also going to be backing Zelenskyy, but this also comes after the US President Donald Trump's meeting with Putin.
Last time, the Vice President of the United States asked President Zelenskyy why he didn't wear a suit, if you remember. Now, this time, there is really one big issue, and the future of Ukraine. Now, let's not forget, just a few days ago, President of America and President of Russia actually discussed Ukraine. but the president of Ukraine was not there. Now, actually, nobody knows what happened in Alaska. What are the proposals? Everyone knows that there was no deal. But what if Trump said that we are close to a deal? Then why are Russia and America close to a deal? And why is Ukraine not involved? Now, today or tonight, the President of the United States will tell the President of Ukraine, look, this is what we discussed in Alaska, and then things will go forward. There are really two issues here. First, ceasefire. Will there be a ceasefire or not, and under what circumstances? Secondly, the land that Russia occupies. In 2014, the Russians took Crimea. Ukraine was not prepared, so the Russians just took it. And later, 3 years ago, the fighting began in Donetsk and Luhansk. Now that fighting is still going on. Russia continues to occupy about 20% of Ukrainian territory. Now what happens? Will Russia hold on to that territory? Will Ukraine get it back? Now, why should Russia give it back? They've lost over 500,000 men in killed and wounded, an enormous amount of resources for that land. And why should Ukraine give back land that it rightfully claims as its own? So this is a very difficult problem. And as Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, has said, both sides have to give up something. Now we don't know what they have to give up. We don't know what they have agreed upon. So this meeting is going to be very crucial, because Trump may just hand over a proposal to President Zelenskyy and say, accept this, or we will stop sending you weapons.
Okay.
Now, we don't know what will happen. That's probably a worst case situation. But it will be important to see how the President of Ukraine deals with it and how European leaders deal with this.
Okay. Okay, all right, Sanjay, do stay with us. So a lot expected from this meeting. What's going to happen? And are we going to see another meltdown if Zelenskyy doesn't actually wear a suit? This time is going to be different, with the European leaders also in attendance. A lot expected, and there are some reactions coming in from Donald Trump as well. He has taken to Truth Social to say it's a big day at the White House. Never had so many European leaders at one time. My great honor to host them. So he has said it's an honor to host the European leaders. Remember, there are several European Union leaders who are also going to be accompanying Zelenskyy for this meeting. This is also an indication from the EU that they are backing Ukraine to the hilt, because there has been some unhappiness about the Russian President Vladimir Putin meeting Donald Trump. It's not just that. Trump has also gone on to say President Zelenskyy of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. So this message seems to indicate that the onus is really on Ukraine, because he says that if Zelenskyy wants, he can end the war. Remember how it started. No getting back. Obama given Crimea 12 years ago without a shot being fired, and no going into NATO by Ukraine. Some things never change. So this red line has been mentioned by the United States. Donald Trump making it clear that there are areas where Russia is very clear that it's not going to go into, including no going into NATO by Ukraine. So what does this indicate? Is this meeting going to lead to anything, any peace deal, as Trump has gone on to call it? In fact, as of now, ahead of the meeting, Zelenskyy has gone on to thank US for security guarantees, calling for trilateral talks with Russia. And the Ukrainian President Zelenskyy had also welcomed the US decision to join security guarantees for Ukraine and urged the creation of a trilateral format, including Ukraine, the United States and Russia, to resolve issues. He had gone on to thank the United States. Remember, this comes ahead of the big meeting that is expected in the White House. So, Srinjoy, how do we look at these statements? On one hand, you have Zelenskyy coming in, EU backing him to the hilt. On the other hand, the US president right now has also put out a post where he seems to be putting the onus completely on Ukraine. He says if Zelenskyy wants it, he can end the war immediately.
If Zelensky wants it, he can end the war immediately. Okay. But what does Zelensky have to do? What does he have to give up? Does he have to give up, number one, any hope of joining NATO? Does he have to give up the Crimea? Does he have to give up Luhansk and Donetsk? These are questions before Zelensky. Now, which president would want to do that? Now, security guarantees are very important. No dispute about that. But what kind of security guarantees, and who will give the security guarantees? Will America do that? Will Europe do that? Will NATO do that? Now the third point is almost out, because President Trump believes that Ukraine should not be part of NATO, as has been suggested by Vladimir Putin. Now, will there be European security guarantees? So what kind of security guarantees? All of this has to be worked out. So it's a very big meeting. Now, President Zelensky has to remember that 20% of the territory of Ukraine is with Russia, and he has to preserve the rest and get as much as he can back. Now, will President Trump help him? Or will President Trump say, look, what you've lost. We can't help you with it. Now, these are issues that have to be worked out. We don't actually know what happened in that meeting between Russia and America. Now, it is very important to ensure that there is a proper meeting in Washington. Yes, the European leaders are there. So there are three issues here. What does President Trump want? What does Europe want? What does Ukraine want? So all of these things will be on the table in 24 hours.
Okay, all right. So a lot expected from this meeting, and all eyes are going to be on this Trump-Zelenskyy meeting, with the EU and NATO leaders all set to accompany Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, the German Chancellor, the Finnish President, the French President are all going to be accompanying Volodymyr Zelenskyy. In fact, the NATO Secretary, the European Commission President are also going to be present as Volodymyr Zelenskyy meets the US President Donald Trump. My colleague Rishabh is also joining us on the broadcast with the details. Rishabh, it's going to be a show of strength just days after the Russian president met the US President, and after that Alaska summit. This seems to be a show of strength from the United Nations as well. The European nations, my apologies, the European Union coming together with Zelenskyy in this meeting. What does this indicate? What's expected in this meeting?
Well, two things, Pratibha. First, we all know what happened when Zelenskyy was last there in Oval in the month of March, and now this meeting again in the same office. And to make sure that that doesn't repeat, the European leaders decided that they will go with Zelenskyy. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Finnish President, and others, including the European Union President and NATO chief, would be accompanying Zelenskyy, and they all will be moving to White House. This would be one of the rare moments when you have so many European leaders in White House, and that's what Donald Trump is saying. But having said that, what is an offing? Just ahead of the meeting, Donald Trump has made his mood clear that Zelenskyy will have to compromise. Crimea is out of question. He might have to give it up. Also, as our senior colleague Shinjoy was putting forward, that will it be easy for Zelenskyy? It is not going to be easy for Zelenskyy. It is going to be difficult for Zelenskyy, and that's the reason that you're finding so many European leaders together, because they know that Zelenskyy might not be able to communicate exactly what he wants to communicate to Donald Trump, given the language barrier as well. We have met Zelenskyy as well, and we have spoken to Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy speaks English but doesn't speak English that could be used in professional terms, and that's the reason that you see these European leaders. Many European leaders have also asked Zelenskyy not to speak English, rather speak Ukrainian. Reason that his English is not something that conveys exactly what he wants to speak, and that's the reason you're finding so many European leaders moving with him to White House.
Okay, all right, but it's a big lineup of the leaders from Europe, UK, the Italian leaders, German Chancellor, Finnish President, French President, all going to be in attendance. Big meeting expected in just hours from now. For the moment,